Hello and welcome back to my channel, The MMA Girl. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'm Jess, of course, the MMA Girl. And today we're going over UFC Abu Dhabi. Headlining, of course, we have Robert the Reaper Whittaker, Bobby Knuckles, facing RDR, Rainer DeRider, who is, of course, a newbie at UFC, making waves in the middleweight division. And he's just coming off his victory against Bo Nickel. Now, this is a very interesting fight card, and I can't wait to go over every fight with you guys. Of course, as usual, I'm doing my main card picks on this channel and going over the prelim fights that you guys shouldn't be missing, but I won't be doing any prelim predictions, of course, as I usually do, because I live in France, you don't get to bet on the prelim fight, so I don't do the prelim picks, just quite honestly. So, on the prelim card, we have the returning Amanda Ribas, who will be taking on Tabata Ricci. Ricci, of course, coming off of defeat. Amanda Ribas coming off of a defeat. Both girls looking to make waves in Abu Dhabi. I'm very excited to see them coming back into the octagon, facing each other. On this card, we have Damon Blackshear, of course, coming over to Abu Dhabi against Davy Grant. And we have notably a fight that was initially on the main card, Bryce Mitchell versus Saeed Nurmagomedov. So that's a very interesting fight. Bryce Mitchell, of course, is moving down to bantamweight as he was initially a featherweight fighter. He believes he's better at bantamweight and he is too small for featherweight. So maybe we'll see a new and improved Bryce Mitchell on Saturday night in his new weight class, and I wish him the best of luck getting into that. Now, for the main card. For the main card, starting off the main card, we have Nikita Krylov, who is taking on Bogdan Guskov. And if you remember, Guskov is Anthony Smith's twin brother from another mother. He is, of course, a very dangerous force in the UFC with only 3 defeats to 17 victories. His opponent, Nikita Krylov, has currently 30 victories and 10 defeats, sitting there with a very lengthy career at the UFC. Now, age-wise, we're at the same. Krylov is 33, Guskov is 32, same reach, same height, same weight, of course. So these both guys, light heavyweights, looking good, looking to get in the win column. I'm going to pick Guskov, Anthony Smith's twin brother, for the victory in this fight. I think he'll win via second round TKO, or if there's no finish in this fight, I think he'll get a decision, unanimous decision in this fight. Next up, we have Asu Almabayev versus Jose Oshua. If you guys remember Almabayev, we last saw him at the Apex take on Manel Kape, and that did not end well for Almabayev because Almabayev went running away from... he ran literally away from Manel Kape in the octagon, and of course, referee Mike Beltran ended that fight as soon as he started running away from his opponent. Almabayev is sitting at 31 years old, and his opponent, Jose Oshua, is sitting at 24 years old. I think this is a new prospect coming in with a big potential, and I'm going to put my money on Jose Oshua for the win because I believe that Almabayev isn't as good as he thinks he is, and I think that Jose could pull off a decision win here or maybe a submission in the second or third round. I think that Jose Oshua has what it takes to beat him via TKO or submission in the second or third round. Next up, we have, of course, the returning Shara Magomedov, Shara Bullet, coming off of his loss against MVP. Of course, he only fights in the United Arab Emirates. If you guys remember, he has an eye injury which left him blind in one eye and not legally allowed to fight in any other countries for now. So we only see him when we fight in Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia. So unfortunately, we won't be seeing him that often, but the UFC are coming to Abu Dhabi and the EAU a lot more often each year. We've just had, of course, the announcement that UFC 321 is happening in Abu Dhabi, and we could potentially see Shara Bullet make his return also in October. That would not be surprising to me. He is taking on, however, this weekend, Mark Barrio. He's coming off, of course, Andre Barrio coming off of a huge KO victory over his last opponent at UFC Montreal. And I honestly think that this is going to be one of his biggest challenges for Shara Bullet. Coming off of a loss against MVP with a hugely difficult fighting style to play with. Of course, MVP is not like a traditional fighter. He has got a very different karate-esque fighting style, and you can't really predict what he's going to do to you next. So I think that's why Shara Bullet was completely thrown off by MVP's fighting style, and MVP got the unanimous decision straight away. I think in this fight, however, Marc-André Barriault has a really good shot of getting that win, and I personally will put my money on Marc-André Barriault. Honestly, I don't see Shara Bullet being as dangerous or as scary as he once was. I think that his hype train has completely deflated, and we're going to see him lose more and more fights as we go along. Of course, only fighting in the United Arab Emirates means that he has to make the most out of his fights when he comes here, because he can't fight elsewhere. So after all this time, of course, he's had a long time to train, a long time in camp. He'll be ready. He'll be ready for Marc-André Barriault, but I think Marc-André Barriault will also be ready for him. So I predict that Marc-André Barriault will get the second round KO over Shara Bullet, and I don't think this will be an easy night for the Bullet. I'm sorry, Shara. In the co-main event, we have the returning Petr Yan, who is taking on number 13 ranked Marcus McGee. Of course, this fight has caused a lot of stir and controversy because people are asking themselves, why on earth is a 13th ranked bantamweight contender getting a fight against Petr Yan, which is completely absurd, of course, which on paper just doesn't seem correct. But he may be able to move up in the ranks very quickly in this bantamweight division and shock the world at the UFC. I think this fight will not be easy for either of these guys. I'm not underestimating Marcus McGee, but Petr Yan is very, very difficult to beat. So even though Marcus McGee is the new prospect, I think Petr Yan will still come away with the victory here over Marcus McGee, just because the experience is there. He's a higher ranked opponent, of course, and he has a lot of grappling, a lot of striking that he can use against Marcus McGee. Marcus McGee is more of a striker who likes to KO his opponents, and he has done so in the past. He has, of course, 1 defeat to 10 victories on his record currently. He's fighting out of Detroit, Michigan. I believe, since he's already been submitted in some of his fights, I believe Petr Yan will be a threat to him, and he will not come out with the victory here. He will not come out with the W in this fight. It will be a slow start, and Petr Yan will break him down and probably come away with the unanimous decision against McGee. I think that's what will happen in this fight. What do you guys think? Will Petr Yan beat the new prospect McGee? Are you guys surprised that someone like McGee, at 13th ranked contender in the bantamweight division, getting Petr Yan? Petr Yan obviously said that he could have waited for Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen because he knows he's up next for the next title shot. But he said he didn't want to stay inactive. He wanted to stay in camps. He didn't want to wait. And of course, not fighting means not getting paid. So I completely understand. No one can blame him for wanting to get paid, of course. So they're offering him someone that may threaten his position in the bantamweight division, but he's not scared, and Petr Yan knows what he's worth, and we will see a great Petr Yan this Saturday, who will surely win by an unanimous decision. What do you guys think? And of course, in the main event, Robert Whittaker versus RDR. Robert Whittaker returning to Abu Dhabi for another explosive main event. He, of course, came to Abu Dhabi in October of last year at UFC 308, and unfortunately he lost via a very painful submission against Khamzat Chimaev, who is taking on, of course, Dricus next month. So I think Robert Whittaker is saying this fight is a make or break situation for him. Of course, if he gets beaten by RDR and RDR takes his position in the rankings, of course, Robert can say goodbye to any hopes of touching the gold. This is the last run for Robert Whittaker for the title. He's 34 years old. He sees himself fighting for another 2 or 3 years maximum. He has a big family. His wife is pregnant with their 6th child. So he doesn't see himself having many more title runs left. So he thinks having 1 title run left, he should and absolutely must beat RDR in order to be still in title contention. Of course, in Abu Dhabi, we had UFC Fight Night, Whittaker versus Aliskerov, which went extremely well for Robert Whittaker. He chinned him, wobbled him, and KO'd him in the first round. Of course, a lot of people would argue Aliskerov was not ready for the kind of pressure Robert Whittaker puts on as soon as the bell is rung. But I wouldn't take anything away from Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker is a very dangerous assassin in the octagon, and RDR has a lot cut out for him on Saturday night. But so does Robert. That is why the question of who will win is so difficult to answer. Robert Whittaker, of course, being the veteran out of the two of them, but they have the same age. It's just Robert's got much more experience at the UFC level. But we must not forget that RDR was middleweight champion at one championship, and he vacated his belt to come to the UFC. He has 20 victories to 2 defeats. It seems very difficult to beat RDR, and I'm finding it really hard to imagine a world where Robert Whittaker would be able to beat him, if I'm completely honest. So he has the height advantage. He has the reach advantage. He is 10 centimeters taller. He has a 10 centimeter reach advantage over Robert Whittaker, which doesn't mean he'll, of course, obliterate Robert Whittaker just because he's taller and a longer reach. But that is what is his advantage in this fight. Robert will find it hard to gauge and measure the distance between himself and RDR to get those strikes landed. Whereas RDR has a lot more space, can keep the distance and still land some significant strikes on Robert Whittaker during this fight, and maybe clinch him straight away and take him down and submit him as Chimaev did. And I think that's the error that Robert Whittaker will make, is letting himself get taken down in the first. Now, Robert said that he knows that RDR will try and take him down because RDR will try and follow the blueprint of Chimaev in order to win in the same fashion that Chimaev did. So hopefully, of course, he's worked on his grappling, he's worked on his ground game. He's not bad on the ground, of course, Bobby Knuckles, but he's not, of course, Chimaev level, neither RDR level. So the best option for him is that it stays on the feet. But if he can't gauge the distance between himself and RDR, then even on the feet, he won't be as efficient. That being said, the keys to victory of both guys are very clear. RDR needs to just follow a Chimaev-esque blueprint, take him down, wear him out, submit him in the first or second round. Striking with Bobby Knuckles, if Bobby is able to gauge the distance, that's not worth it because he may be outstrike. We are not talking about Bo Nickel here, who may be a good wrestler, but is not at all a striker in the UFC. We are talking about Bobby Knuckles, the Reaper, who is an amazing striker and very dangerous and can land a lot of damage on his opponents. Which means for me that RDR knows this and he will take him down as soon as the bell rings. He may try and strike with him, gauge the distance a little bit for the first 30 seconds, but after that he'll try and take down, he'll get in the clinch, and he will try and submit Robert a straight way. Robert's key to victories, of course, are just staying on feet, defending those takedowns as much as possible, of course, using his newly acquired skills since his last fight that he's acquired during this fight camp to defend his takedowns well and defend, of course, any submission attempts coming from RDR. And the best way, obviously, to get out of that is to get back on the feet and try and strike with him again, which is keeping that distance, trying to land those strikes, and hopefully staying on the feet as for long as possible. And maybe even try and, when he's on the ground, reverse the positions and try and get a TKO finish on RDR. That would be the keys to victory if I were to coach Robert Whittaker, but I'm not, luckily enough for him. But if I was to choose, of course, the winner of this fight between Robert Whittaker and Reina de Ryder, I would choose RDR. I think RDR will get the first or second round finish in this fight. I do not want to write off Robert Whittaker and eat my words next week when I talk to you guys about how I was wrong. But I honestly think that RDR is on a run right now, and he's unstoppable with only 2 losses on his entire record with 20 victories. We're looking at someone who has never lost in the UFC yet, and someone who is a really big threat to the middleweight division. And I think one day we'll be seeing de Ryder versus du Plessis, and that will be a really interesting matchup. Both guys have interesting fighting styles, and stylistically they match at the same time as they don't match. So it would just be so interesting to see. I don't think Bobby Knuckles is washed, but I think that Bobby Knuckles, he should recognize the fact that he's being put up against new prospects rather than put up against top 5 potential title contenders, because the UFC are using him to test new guys and see if they will be able to beat Bobby Knuckles. And unfortunately for Alisgrov, he wasn't able to do so. Chimaev, of course, did. And I think RDR will join the club of people that are able to get through Bobby Knuckles and unfortunately chin him or submit him. So that's my prediction for UFC Abu Dhabi, my whole main card prediction, and of course my main event prediction. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this card and how you think this fight card will go down. Do you think Robert Whittaker will come away with the victory? I'd be very happy if so. I'm not writing him off, but I just think RDR is too dangerous for Robert Whittaker right now at this stage in his career. He's taken a lot of damage, and RDR is such a huge talent coming up in the middleweight division right now. So, like, comment, subscribe as usual. Have a great weekend. Tune in, of course, to UFC Abu Dhabi, happening a little bit earlier than usual, of course, to my advantage. And we'll see each other next week for a new episode of my podcast and a new video for next week's fight card. Bye.